Well, hi there. I'm a shy, retiring kind of a clinical scientist kind of person. My natural habitat is the university and dreaming spires of Oxford. So I ask myself, what the heck am I doing here in Anaheim? You see, what I do, I spend my time teaching, writing, running large-scale clinical trials, and publishing papers in high-impact medical journals. This is not the kind of work I normally do. But the reason why I'm here is that this seems to me and to most of my colleagues like one of the most critical opportunities to change public health that we have seen maybe in the last 50 years, maybe even this century. When I got the opportunity, when I was invited to come and talk here, I jumped at it. And every one of my colleagues would have done the same. Because when you take one of the most dynamic companies in corporate history and you add to that the most effective, the most therapeutic, potent beverage that we have in the entire functional food and beverage market, and you add to that the most intensively researched and most clinically proven and most effective natural ingredient to enhance immunity that we have ever come across. And you have a tool to change and improve public health, the likes of which we have never seen before. My friends, the next step change in improving American public health, and maybe world health if we get this right, is not happening in the wards and the laboratories of my hospital or my university. This is ground zero. This is truly the nutritional and public health equivalent of the Manhattan Project, and you are it. So what's the most important way, the most important thing that keeps you healthy? Well, it's not Medicare, and it is not the pharmaceutical industry. It's not even the pump-action Remington in your gun rack. It's your immune system. And the reason why the immune system is so important is that you are constantly under attack by viruses and bacteria. You know, Howard Hughes was right, in a way, because every second of every day, you are all, regardless of your levels of personal hygiene, just crawling with viruses and bacteria. I am too. We all are. That's the human condition. In fact, every single one of you carries on and inside your body more bacteria and more viruses than there are humans on the surface of this planet. And each and every one of them, the vast majority of them, is just waiting to get an opportunity to attack you and cause an infection. And the one thing that keeps you safe is your immune system, and it's working 60 seconds every minute, 24/7, to keep you healthy. And a lot of the time it works okay. But every time the immune system is compromised or weakened by some external problem, one of those bacteria, one of those viruses might get through, and then you could be in very serious trouble. So what are the kinds of things that suppress the immune system? Well, malnutrition is one. You'd be surprised to hear this, but a lot of Americans and a lot of British people are malnourished. We eat enough food, but we eat the wrong kind of food. And if you're getting by on burgers, fries, and sodas, you're malnourished. So that's one problem right there. What are the other things that could affect you? Well, long-haul air travel. When you cross the Atlantic, you're exposed to the equivalent of 4 whole-body X-rays. And everybody knows that knocks your immune system flat on its ass, which is why so many people, when they get off the plane, you end up with some sort of a respiratory tract infection or something worse. The third thing that reduces the efficiency of the immune system is stress. Now, I know that none of you are malnourished, none of you take long-distance air flights, and none of you know the meaning of the word stress, so I guess none of this applies to any of you. But what we do know when we look in detail at the immune systems of the general public, we find that in most cases, they're not working as well as they should. In fact, this is a major factor which has contributed to the astonishing rise in allergies that we've seen since 1950, the huge increase in cancer, and it's the reason for our enormous vulnerability to infections when we travel. Now, infection has always been the leading cause of death to humans, until very recently. And even Walt Disney knew this, and I'll explain why. Because in an age when people were still living crowded together in unsanitary conditions, infection was never very far away. You never knew when it was going to knock at your door, when it was going to come to your home, your family, and take away a parent, a partner, or a child in a matter of days. Scary stuff. And so what we do when we find things like this that are so frightening to us, so alien, we dress them up. That's what the function of folk tales is, fairy stories. Now, the original of this story, The Sleeping Beauty, the princess who pricks her thumb on a spindle, and she then falls into a deep sleep for 100 years until the prince arrives and makes everything better. But you know what the original of that story is? The original of that story is not a princess, it's just someone, some girl, some boy, pricks their finger on a rose or a knife. A bacterium enters the blood. They develop septicemia. The bacteria runs right through their bodies. This girl, let's say it's a girl, over a period of 4 to 5 days, she falls into a coma, and then she dies. She doesn't wake up. There is no prince. This is what life used to be like. And of course, when infection came, very often it wasn't just affecting individuals, because you don't have to go back too far to go back to the time of the great epidemics, the great plagues. And I'm going to show you another cartoon now, which is a little more realistic. This is a medieval cartoon. What it shows you is something called the Dance of Death. New bacterium comes to town. It hits target 0. The first person gets sick. They die. And before their body is cold in the ground, other people who have acquired the bacterium or the virus from this initial case are starting to die. So they're following him into the grave. These kinds of diseases wiped out entire communities, cities, families. The Black Death, for example, killed on average 4 or 5 out of every 10 people. Grim times. But then, thanks to the work of scientists such as Louis Pasteur, the Frenchman, the Dutchman Anton von Leeuwenhoek, the German Robert Koch, we worked out that these kinds of diseases were not caused by evil spirits or miasmas. They were caused by bacteria. And then, thanks to human ingenuity, in historically what was the blink of an eye, we developed the antibiotics, which you all grew up with. Many of you have probably used at one time or another. And it looked as if we were winning the war against infection. We were pushing infection back into the corner.